Okay.
I can't remember this. I mean, it's been so long. I don't even remember the first place that we met. Do you?
Yeah, I think it was the Fort Wayne Rumble. You were running the famed Munchkin, and I was running a quarter midget at the time. I think it was either my first or second year driving a quarter midget, and I remember you were sitting up in the stands watching. I don't know what session you were watching, but I just came up and just sat next to you, and me and you started BSing, and by the end of the night, I won in light 160 in my quarter midget, and you ended up winning the feature in the midget. And I watched your race, you watched my race, and from there it was pretty much history.
And then the next thing you know, you're a squatter in my shop.
Yeah. Me and Tony, we kind of kept in touch after we met, and a few years later, I obviously moved up through the ranks, ran the quarter midgets, the Ford Focus midgets, raced a lot down here in Charlotte with Brad Nossinger. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows Brad, likes to talk. And ended up getting a national midget off Bob East, and we purchased the car, and the first guy I called was you. I'm like, hey, we just bought a race car. We have nowhere to keep it. And you were nice enough to, let us move in. And like I say, might be, he's going to think it's far-fetched, but I would not be where I am in my career today without, that blessing of letting me move in and learn from, yourself and all your great employees there.
He's giving me all this credit, making me sound great. I remember when I'd walk in the shop, I'd walk around his car and I'd walk around his area there, and I'd look to see if I saw any titanium bolts and nuts laying around that I thought he got out of our bins upstairs. See how many parts he stole out of the shop. Yeah. Which honestly we didn't care, because it was like this was like we kind of felt like it was our little factory team off to the side here, because we took pride when he had a good night. We felt like it was a win at the shop. So yeah. I mean, it was. But I always liked looking around. I'm like, I wonder how many nuts and bolts he got today out there.
Yeah, all of them. Those race cars were some of the nicest in the country, and their race shop. It was the Taj Mahal of open wheel racing. You had every part and piece that you ever needed in that place, and you'd go upstairs, and it was like a Fastenal store, but with all Aerocraft, titanium, the coolest hardware. Michael Lewis did a great job stocking that, and he definitely made that race car expensive.
Yeah, he made our cars expensive too, but we had cars that were at weight and right where they needed to be. So we had nice stuff.
For sure. I miss those things.
The fun thing was watching him and his brother. You get these two kids working on this car, and I'm like, how is shit not falling off the car? Got these two kids working on it, and then you watch them work on it, and you're like, I don't even do that good a job working on the car. It's like, I'm going to quit working on my stuff. I'm going to let these two, when they're done with his car, I'm going to let them come over and work on my car over here. So
that's because Brad Mariscotti, John Sain, and Jimmy Carr browbeat us until we did it right.
That's right. Yeah, they treated those boys as if they were their own kids, and they would not let anything slide. If they did something 90%, they would make them finish it and do it nice. There wasn't anything wrong with their work, but there's a way to do things nice. We call it nice. You can do it right, and their work was right, but then there's a way of going that extra step further and making it nice.
Yeah, I call it making it like jewelry.
Yeah, and it's just that extra attention to detail and showing that you care about what you're doing, other than just bolting stuff together like an erector set. So it got to where those guys, you would walk by and you're watching them, and it's like you didn't have to tell them but one time how to do something. You never had to go back and tell them a second time, I told you how to do it this way. You told them one time, and they had it and never forgot it. And it's like they were like gigantic sponges in there. Anything that you could tell them that helped, they took it in. They never questioned why you were telling them to do it a certain way, and they never forgot after that. It was like they had mental Rolodexes in their heads. Do you even know what a Rolodex is, by the way?
No. What was that word earlier we couldn't?
Synopsis.
Synopsis.
So, but they just retained everything to where it didn't matter what part of the car they were working on. I mean, there's a lot of things on there that anybody can put together. But then there's areas that you got to put extra time in, and people still can put it together, but the people that take that extra time to make it nice, there is a difference in the way the car performs after that.
For sure.
And they were very meticulous about that. And just, it's like, we finally got to the point where, like, you didn't have to watch over them and make sure they were doing it right. They knew if they weren't doing it right, and they knew to come ask somebody.
Yeah.
And that was what really impressed me about Austin and Thomas. It's like they were switched on from day one. And it's like, these kids are different. I watched them sit there and, what were those things we rode around Ricky's basement?
Oh yeah, the little Rip Riders or whatever. They were little tricycles with casters on the rear.
And we're watching these kids, like, electric nut gun these wheels on and off. They're trying to figure out how to get an advantage somehow. And it's like, there is no advantage to this. There's not going to be any combination that's going to be any better. It's all in what you're doing with the pedals.
Yeah.
But it just showed that they were always thinking about how could they take this and make it better to where they could go quicker with it. And you just watched how they did things, and it's like, these kids are a different breed than anybody I'd been around. So it's like, I got a son that's 5 months old now, and if he's half as switched on as this one is, we're going to be in great shape.
I'm sure he will be.
He's going to be just fine. So,
dude, that's awesome. It kind of comes right into the second question. Is it probably wasn't a surprise when you heard that he was getting into Top Fuel in 2019, and then with his family. And so, do you remember anything about hearing that, or how you felt knowing that you kind of seen them go through the ranks? And I mean, he worked on the car before that, but then getting the drive, like, how did you feel when you heard that?
yeah, and I've never told him this part coming up. But yeah, we would be at the sprint car races. I'd already retired from NASCAR, so I was running sprint cars, but we would always have the Xfinity race on because we had a car in Xfinity every week, and so we would watch the Xfinity race. Well, right after Xfinity was over, NHRA qualifying was on, so we're always watching him. But I'm going to blame him a little bit because that is also what made me catch Leah's eye. That I'm like, all right, well, every week then we used to shut it off after Austin would run, and then you'd see Leah in the box. I'm like, well, maybe wait for this run to go over, and maybe we got to wait one more because the interview of her is going to be after that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of blaming him a little bit for this whole predicament that I'm in now.
Hey, I think it worked out pretty well.
It worked out just fine. It's working out just fine. But yeah, that was something that we were very adamant about with the sprint car team. Is if qualifying was on, we wanted to watch because we wanted to see how Austin did. And it's like, we still felt like if he had a good day, we had a pep in our step at the dirt races even. So it's like, even though he moved on and grew up and went a different path, I was on a way different path than that, obviously, at that time. We still felt like we were a part of what he was doing. And if he had a good day, we were like, hell yeah. We were high-fiving in the trailer and stuff. So we took pride in that as well. But yeah, it was fun to watch him go through the process. And I know at the beginning it was frustrating. And I know it was frustrating for him because I know how much of a perfectionist he is. And we would sit there, and it's like we could feel the pain. And we could see the interviews, and we could see the pain in his eyes. And it's like we felt so bad.
Bones.
But yeah. But it's like somebody mugged him and stole his dog at the same time, But yeah, when he had a good race and when he qualified well and when he finally won, it was like, holy crap! This little kid was the one working at our shop, and he just won a Top Fuel race. So it's been fun. I mean, I was a single guy through this whole thing, so I didn't think about family. I didn't think about kids. Didn't want anything because that was messing my program up. But that's the closest thing I had to a kid at that time was watching Austin. And it's like we sat there, and all of us at the track at TSR, we took a lot of pride. When he had a good day, it was like, all right, And I got to know Jimmy a little bit. I really didn't know Thomas too much at that time. But then Thomas ended up in our world.
Growing up.
Yeah, and he comes down to Charlotte, and it's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I work here now. I'm like, unreal. And it's just like another chapter of that. And then I remember the day that Thomas called me off to the side, and he's like, hey, I put in my 2 weeks notice. And I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong? I mean, he's like, nothing's wrong. I'm going to go work with my dad in Austin. It's like, I get it. It's like, you couldn't be mad. You couldn't even be upset. It's all you could do is be excited because you're like, this is a dynamic that is unbelievable. And for those three to be able to work together, it's like that's a dream deal for anybody.
Yeah.
Any family wishes they could do what these three are doing right now, and there's not three family members that are going to perform like these guys do. It just doesn't happen. They don't have the bond, they don't have the relationship, they don't get along with each other like they do. And that is something that you look back when they were kids, and you look back at how meticulous they were and why they were so good at doing what they were doing. You realize that had nothing to do with them as individuals. It had to do with what they did as a family at home, and the atmosphere and the culture that they grew up in, and the expectations that their father expected of these boys. They embraced that. And there's a lot of kids at that age that would fight that. They want to be independent, they want to do their own thing, and it's natural for us to do that. Not Austin and Thomas. They embraced that, they listened, and you look at what they did last year and what they're doing. I mean, it's scary. It's scary because I have a car that competes against them. That is the scary part. It's awesome if you're not competing against them and you're watching and going, this is the way every family dreams that this could be for our family. But not everybody can pull off what they do. There is something special about the Prock family.
Yeah. It blows me away that, like that picture I just showed you before we started this deal, me and my brother were, this tall, and my dad's a grown man tuning a race car, and now we're all working together. Like, it's pretty unreal, but definitely is fun. And like you said, my dad, he always taught us, he said, listen to the people that you think are smart, and you got 2 ears, one mouth. And that's kind of was our MO growing up, learning from everybody at Tony Stewart Racing, and then just going through that course in life, and it ended up putting us in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Took me a long time to start believing my dad, though. I was about 18 or 20. I listened, but I barked back quite a bit.
I think we all do at 18. Yeah. At 18 or 20, we think we got it all figured out. And then you go down the road and you're like, I didn't know shit.
Yeah, that guy was right the whole time.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything, but I thought I knew it all. So, no, it's fun for us. I think that's one of the things that made winning at Vegas finally, for me personally, special, because the teams aren't up there yet. You're up there. Kelly's the only one up there, and I couldn't even get around Kelly because I'd already punched her in the arm earlier in the day. I was so excited I got a whole shot win, and I mean literally punched her in the arm, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so sorry. And she's just laughing at me. And so when I got out, I didn't want to. I couldn't risk punching Kelly again in the arm, but I stood on top of the car there and didn't even think about it. Like, Leah's like, that was sketchy. That was a sketchy move. I'm like, I didn't even think twice about it. It was like standing on a cage,
Exactly.
A sprint car cage for us. Stood up there, the first person I see over top of all the photographers is Austin. He's pointing at me and I'm pointing at him, and it's like, this has come full circle is what I'm thinking in my head. Like, we have done this together. It's like, oh my God. And here we are winning a race on the same day, and just a special, there were so many elements of winning Vegas that made it special, but him being one of the first people I saw was a whole dimension that I never in my wildest dreams ever even thought about. And when it happened, it made me go straight to that shop with those two boys and that midget being in that shop, and made me think about that. I'm like, this is so cool. So it was just, I mean, it was like there was all this icing and cherries on top and very little cake. Like, the cake wasn't the big part. It was all the icing, all the cherries on it and around it and everything that made it special. And, this kid was a huge part of that.
That really was my last question. I was going to say, it came full circle, and I was going to say, how did it feel to win on the same day? But you kind of answered it, so I think that was good.
It couldn't have been written any better, I don't think. Ever since he started, I had this gut feeling that when he got his first win, I was going to be there in the winner's circle with him, and for it to all come true, and see all his obviously hard work pay off, become a legend. Not that you weren't before, but just to cap it off and show how talented Tony Stewart is to win in pretty much every major category of motorsports. Something that probably no one will ever do.